Okay, welcome everyone, and thanks again for joining. I believe this is number 4 or 5. I lost track of the webinar series that we've been doing. So today we have Julian Huenerfauth. He is from the Co-op and Career Services Office. He is your co-op advisor as a graduate business student. So he's going to run through some of the services that are offered, both from a co-op standpoint and also career perspective, those opportunities and what his role is really all about. So we'll jump into that. As I mentioned, if you're viewing this after the fact, it will have that live transcript, obviously, and closed captioning that you can use. But if you are viewing it live right now, again, feel free to use that closed captioning if you'd like. But yeah, we'll get started here, and I'll turn it over to Julian.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Matt, thank you for inviting me today. As Matt said, my name is Julian Huenerfauth. I am an assistant director in the Office of Career Services and Cooperative Education, and I specifically work with students in the College of Business, helping them with their co-op search, but also their full-time job search, and anything really that has to do with career and finding jobs and finding internships. I am also in charge in our office of all of the initiatives for international students. So if you're an international student coming to our IT, you'll also hear from me with resources and activities that are specifically geared to help international students find jobs. So let me just share my screen so that we can get started with our presentation. Here we go. Okay, so today we're going to talk about experiential learning and co-op. We're actually a pretty large office. So our office is located in the Bausch and Lomb Center. That is the same building as admissions and financial aid. So once you come to RIT, you will probably have to swing by that office to like bring in any like transcripts or things like that, so that you'll get familiar with that building. We are located kind of like at the top of the university, basically the opposite side from Saunders. It's like the first building that you see when you come into the visitors parking lot. We are usually open from 8:30 to 4:30 p.m. There is always somebody at the office to help you. However, because of the current COVID situation, we are working remotely mostly, so you can make appointments with us. Once you become an RIT student, you'll be able to use our Career Connect system and set up appointments, virtual appointments like this, so that we can work on your goals. So a little bit about RIT's co-op history. So we have been doing co-ops since 1912, and the program started with 32 students at a couple of local companies. Now, today, we have every year more than 4,000 students completing more than 6,000 co-op work assignments. And we have roughly a little bit over 2,000 companies that we work with. So it's a really big, wide set of opportunities that you have here at RIT. We are one of the largest and oldest co-op programs in the world. So co-op is a little bit different than an internship in the sense that for something to be, I guess, defined as a co-op here at RIT, it needs to be a full-time opportunity. So usually 35 hours per week or more. Typically, it's going to be a paid position. I usually don't accept unpaid positions unless it's something that really makes sense for the student and that it's going to be a really great opportunity. But normally we try to make sure that all of the opportunities that we get are paid, especially anything that is posted for students is paid. While you're on co-op, you don't pay tuition. So going on co-op doesn't cost you anything. It has to be directly related to your field of study. So, if you are, as a graduate student, if you go on co-op, you need to make sure that that co-op is related to the things that you're learning in your graduate degree. That is going to be a way for you to apply those skills that you're learning. It can be fit into your academic schedule, and so especially if you are coming in for the MBA, it's very easy to do a co-op when you're in the MBA program, because there's always this summer between your first and second year, so that's a perfect time to do a co-op. If you are in one of our other graduate programs and you're interested in doing co-op, we can definitely have that conversation, and we can figure out a way with your academic advisor to fit it in. But it's important that you let us know that that's your goal from the beginning, so that we can start working with you to make that happen. So usually co-ops are single to 2 consecutive terms in length. For graduate students, we highly recommend that you do a single term. I know that sometimes doing like a longer co-op, it's like, oh, more experience, it's better. But what that sometimes does is that it takes you out of sync with your cohort, and then it just like takes you out of the normal recruiting cycle for the jobs after graduation. So it's often better to just like do your one co-op and then finish your program, and then move on to your employment search. So co-op gives you a lot of opportunities. One of the things that it helps you is to help define your career path after graduation. Sometimes students come in and they know that they like a subject, or they like one of our programs, but they're not quite sure what that's going to look like when they go out in the world of business. And so having a co-op gives you an idea or an opportunity to test it out, right? Maybe you have an idea that you want to work as an operations analyst, and so you go and have a co-op in operations, and then you might realize like, actually, yes, I really like this, or oh, I actually did not like this very much. There were components about like analytics that I really liked, so maybe I should just go into a business analyst position for my full-time job search. So it's a good way to test out your skills and kind of like really narrow down what it is that you want to do after graduation. It helps you apply the theory that you're learning in your courses to real professional situation. It also gives you great opportunities to, kind of like harness projects that you can do, that you can put in your resume, that's going to help you get a better job when you graduate. You will be earning a reasonable salary, and that's going to help you finance your education. While you're on co-op, you get paid, and you are not paying RIT anything unless you're taking like a class online at the same time or something like that. But otherwise, you're not going to pay anything while you're on co-op. It also is going to help you develop additional technical skills. It's going to help you enhance vital soft skills like critical thinking, professional communication, teamwork, and many other things that are going to be very important when you are working. As international students, you will very quickly learn that there are many cultural differences here in the United States. And so having an opportunity to go into an office environment and live the U.S. culture firsthand and interact with, U.S. coworkers and seeing what those social dynamics are like is going to help you kind of get acclimated to our culture a little bit better. It's also going to give you a great opportunity to network. So something that's very important in the United States when you're doing a job search is using your network. A lot of times there are jobs that are never posted anywhere that people find through networking. Just think about this. Somebody works at a company and there's an opening coming up. And like usually they ask around like, hey, do you know somebody who would be good for this position? And then that's kind of like how they run those searches, and only if they don't find somebody really quick, then they'll post it for the general masses, right? So creating a network and nurturing that network while you are in the United States is going to be very important for your job search. Also, it's going to help you stand out to recruiters when you do your full-time search, just because this is going to show that you already have some great work experience in the United States, and those things can make it easy to find the job, and also can elevate your starting salary compared to other entry-level candidates that might not have any or as much experience as you. So our top co-op locations are, of course, Rochester, New York City, Boston, San Francisco, Silicon Valley, Connecticut, and North Carolina. But our students actually do co-ops all over the world. So we have placed students in, I actually did a search the other day just to see like where are our students going, and I think the only state that I didn't see anybody co-oping was like North Dakota, and like, I mean, I'm not surprised. So but basically every other state we've had people doing co-ops. So we post in our system over 47,000 job postings every year. We have tons of employers that visit campus every year. Of course, this year everything has been virtual, but during, like, once things get more normalized and we're able to do more things in person, we'll be having employers coming back to campus. And they the kinds of things that they do on campus are sometimes information sessions. So they'll have a presentation in a classroom and we advertise it so that you can go and you can listen to their information about the company and their opportunities. And then it's also a good opportunity at the end so that you can chat with them and get to know them a little bit and have them get to know you as well. Sometimes they come and do tabling. So don't be surprised if, like, once in a while you see an employer in the like atrium there level at Saunders, just kind of like with some like giveaways and things like that, and just interacting with students, getting to advertise their jobs and collecting contact information from students. Our students earn every year like $65 million. I mean, that's not every student, that's all combined, of course. And then 94% of employers say that they would hire their co-op students for a full-time position, which is great. Something that happens sometimes at our IT is that employers will come looking to hire for full-time, and they don't get a lot of applicants just because a lot of the people that would be or are ready to graduate already have jobs because they did a co-op somewhere else and like they got an offer right away. And so a co-op is a great kind of like entryway to a company sometimes. So how do we help you? How do we support students through this whole process? So of course we have this whole experiential learning program with the co-op program, but there's also internships, there's international experience, and there's also research experience for undergraduates. We do career prep, and so each major has a career services coordinator that is designated to them, right? So for you guys, I am that person. I work with all of the graduate programs in the College of Business. We have a great job search platform that's available for you. It's called Career Connect. And once you become an RIT student, you will have access to that. As a matter of fact, once you are registered for all of your classes and you've like paid your tuition and stuff like that, you immediately get your RIT email and all of that good stuff. And then you will start having access to Career Connect. And through Career Connect, you can also find on-campus jobs. And so if you're interested in having a job on campus, just to earn a little money while you are in classes, you can start familiarizing yourself with that platform. Also, as an international student, I highly recommend that you try to get a campus job for two reasons. One is that it gives you an opportunity to start getting some experience, to practice your English, to interact with other people, but it also makes you have to get a social security card, which is a process that like sometimes takes a little while. And so you can like get that out of the way. And then when it's time for your co-op, you've already done that. And so that's one less step that you'll have to do later on. Let's see, we also do career focus workshops. And so you'll see emails coming from me or from our general office advertising them throughout the semester. And those are workshops on resume writing, on how to interview, on how to negotiate your salary, on how to network and how to reach out to people using LinkedIn and things like that. So there's all sorts of great workshops that we do. Many of them are taught by our career services coordinators. Some of them are also taught by our employer partners. So sometimes we'll do like panels and things like that with employers so that you can learn tips and tricks on how to optimize your job search. We also do resume reviews. And so that's a service that you can get from your career services coordinator at any time, but we also have resume review events. And so in normal years, you will see me and a couple other people from my office at a table in Saunders with a little sign that says resume reviews, and we'll advertise it ahead of time so that you'll come in and you can sit with us and do a quick resume review. This year we did it online, and so like you would have to reserve a spot, like a 15-minute spot, and then we could do it virtually via Zoom. We also have on-campus interviews. So employers do come on campus sometimes to do interviews. We also do a mock interview program where we have our employer partners come and practice with our students. And so that's a great opportunity for you to go and really practice your interview skills and get feedback from an employer. We also help you with job offers and salary negotiation. So whenever you get a job offer, you have questions about it, or you don't know what something means, or like whether it's a good offer or not, you can always come to me and I will help you go through it. And we also have peer career advisors. So we have trained some like really smart students that have gone through our career courses to help us with basic things that, that basic questions that you might have throughout your search. So if you need a quick resume review and there wasn't an available appointment with me, or you have a quick question because you need to register your co-op and you don't know how to do it, or something like that, you can always go to our peer career advisors and they will be happy to help you. Now, we also run several events. So we have our university-wide career fair, and that usually happens twice a year. This year, this semester we had one virtual, because of COVID, but we are hoping that maybe things will get well enough by the fall that we might be able to have an in-person career fair. Typically, our career fairs have about 250 to 260 employers, and thousands of students go through it. It's a day-long event. A lot of students find jobs there. We also have the interview day. So the day after the career fair, some of the employers that come stay to conduct interviews on campus. So that's also an opportunity. The mock interview day that I mentioned earlier. And also, as I mentioned earlier, the networking events with employer partners. So it's when they come in and do those info sessions and things like that. Now, the student responsibility. So we provide you with all of the tools and the assistance you need for looking for a job or looking for a co-op, but the primary responsibility for finding that co-op is yours, right? So you need to do the work, right? You need to look for co-op postings. You need to craft a good resume. You need to do, the applications. You need to make sure that you're attending career fairs and networking with employers and alumni. If you do all of these things, chances are you will find a co-op. If you just kind of like hope that things are going to work out and wait until the last minute, chances are that it's going to be a little bit harder for you. Another responsibility is that once you found that co-op, you must report it through our system. And that is especially important for you as an international student, because you're going to need to have your CPT paperwork processed. And the first step in that chain of events to get that new I-20 that says that you can work is reporting your co-op. And it is also your responsibility to complete the whole co-op experience. So once you have accepted a co-op, it is your responsibility to go and work with that company and stay at that company until the date that you've agreed to from the get-go. So for eligibility, I'm going to skip the undergraduate one because you guys are graduate students. So you must be in good academic standing with a minimum GPA of 3.0, and you have to have completed one academic year in the United States before you go on co-op. That is not an RIT regulation. That is like a government regulation for international students. You have to have completed 2 terms before you're able to go on co-op. And so international students also just need work authorization from RIT International Student Services. And so that means that after you have registered your co-op with us and it's been approved, then it gets registered on SIS, which is our system where you'll see all of your schedule and your classes and stuff like that. And so once that's there and it's officially registered, you need to go to International Student Services and fill out a form so that they can process your CPT. CPT stands for Curricular Practical Training. And that gives you a new I-20 that is your proof that you are authorized to work in the United States for that specific co-op engagement. So some of our top co-op employers, as you can see, there's tons of companies that recruit here. Some of them are local, some of them are not local. We've had students from the College of Business go to most of these companies. So it's kind of interesting because RIT, as being a tech university, most of our employers come because they're like, okay, we want engineers, we want computer people. But then they meet our business students and they realize that our business students are fantastic. So they end up hiring them too. And so our students go to a lot of kind of like unusual companies. Like and of course we have students go to the traditional business companies. We have students go to EY, we have students go to KPMG and to the consulting firms and all of those good firms as well. But we end up having business students go to Apple and Microsoft and like Tesla, just because those employers are on campus and our students go and network with them, and they've started recognizing, these companies have started recognizing how great our students are. So they're like starting posting jobs for business and really actively recruiting our business students. So here are some of our Fortune 500 partners that recruit here at RIT. And the next slide will be our Fortune 100 partners that recruit here at RIT. So our overall outcome rate is 94%. And so that's university-wide. The Saunders outcome rate is also around that number as well. And outcomes are defined as students who within 6 months of graduation have either found a job or have moved on to pursue another degree. So like they've gone to grad school, or they've gone to like get another second grad school degree, or they've gone to join the military or something like the Peace Corps or something like that. And 91% is our knowledge rate. So that's kind of like the average, the number of or the percentage of students that report their outcomes information to us. This number is actually quite above industry standards. So we are one of the universities that collects the most data on this. So looking forward, we've seen that 88% of employers have diversity recruiting programs, and employers are starting to recognize that having a diverse workforce is good for business. And so that also includes, country of origin diversity. And so more and more we're seeing employers realize that having international students working with them is something that can benefit them in the long run. Some of the top skills that employers are looking for are leadership, teamwork, communication, and problem-solving skills. So one of the there's been studies actually that show that international students are quite good at many of these. So like at problem solving, at working in different teams, in leadership. Usually by the time you make it to the United States from a foreign country, that means that you're somebody who's at the top of like your peer group, because it's not easy to make that decision to move to another country and pursue an education in a different language. So you guys are going to do great. Communication sometimes is the one component that some international students need a little bit of help just because of the language difference. And to that, I say, it's good to start working on improving your communication skills from the moment you step foot in the United States. And ways to do that is just putting yourself as much out of your comfort zone as possible. So if you can avoid like having roommates that are from your same country, if you can avoid always hanging out with people that speak your same language, that's going to force you to have to communicate mostly in English, and that's going to help you get better at communicating your ideas in English. I am also like an international person. I am not originally from the United States, and that is one of the things that I did, and I think that that's one of the things that made me successful is that I did not hang out with Colombians when I moved to New York. I used to like just look for people from other countries or from the United States and just kind of like made sure that I was always just speaking in English. And even if I was hanging out with Colombians, I would always like invite somebody who didn't speak Spanish so that we were all forced to speak English to not be rude to that person. So that's also something that you can do if you're going to hang out with people from your own country. Just always invite somebody who doesn't speak your language, because that forces everybody to speak English. There's expected growth in certain industries as we're in the next coming years. So solar and wind energy are seeing a big expansion, or are predicted to have a big expansion. Healthcare is also expanding, and anything that has to do with statistics and data analytics, software development, and information security, all of those industries are growing very fast. And so now I will just open it up for any questions that you may have. Here is the contact information from the Office of Career Services. So you can see our website, rit.edu/career services. And you can also call the number on the screen, or email us at careerservices@rit.edu with any questions. And there's some kind of like virtual open house options right there if you are interested. Okay, so I will stop the share. Can I answer any questions?
Julian, just to get something started, I also wanted to let students know that while they do need your approval on the co-op, they also need to get approval from Saunders through their academic advisor, just so that we make sure that it aligns with their program of study. And that to remind students to not accept a position until they've cleared it through your office and ours. We occasionally will have a student go ahead and accept an offer that is not an appropriate co-op, and we don't like to harm the relationship with the companies and at the same time want to do right by the student. So those would just be the two things I'd like to add.
Yeah, absolutely. And usually that process can so we work in tandem a lot with the college. And so usually if you go to your advisor, the advisor will rope me in, or if you come to me, I'll rope your advisor. So we'll always just work together to make sure that the co-op is properly approved.
So this question may be more for Peggy, but and Julian, you can chime in too. Can you speak to how the co-op looks differently from an MBA to an MS program? Obviously, with the MBA, you have a little more flexibility, but for an MS program, Peggy, if you can speak to how that may look differently for a student versus the MBA.
Absolutely. Good question, Matt. Basically, we have tried to work out options for our MS programs to allow a student to do a co-op, but we really need for the student to let their advisor know their very first academic term if this is something they hope to build into their program, so that we can arrange their schedule of courses appropriately, knowing that some of the classes for our MS programs are only offered once a year. So what we've tried to do in the design of our MS programs is to have generally 2 electives that we will leave for a summer term, so that the students, if they get a co-op, can do a summer co-op and take those 2 remaining electives during the fall without having to deal with scheduling issues. So we've always taken that into consideration, but it's something you need to work right up front and not save some of your required classes and suddenly decide you want to do a co-op, but the course isn't going to be offered for another year.
Yeah, also, because a lot of these programs, the master's programs are designed so that you can finish them in 1 year. You have the reason why it's important that you tell us from the get-go is because if you finish your classes, you're graduating. So you cannot finish your classes and say oh, I want to do a co-op now. Once your classes are done, you're graduating. Co-op is no longer an option. So you need to make sure that you let us know ahead of time so that we can plan accordingly.
Good point. And this is a good point to let people know who may not know and not sure what programs people are with, but our MS in Finance program has just been granted STEM designation, as has our MBA program starting in the fall. So for those students who are international, either in the MBA or now pretty much any of our MS programs, with the exception of hospitality, HR, and service leadership, are all carrying the STEM designation, which will give you the additional time to work in the US under your OPT. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, we're really excited about that. Thank you both for that. I think it's really helpful to contextualize that, because it always comes up in speaking with students, and it's just good to hear that perspective. We do have a question in the chat about classes being held fully on campus this fall. The target is, and this will look differently for grad programs. We generally have more of an influx of online options for grad students, just generally speaking. But the goal is 80% of classes to be in person. Now, the key with that is right now that 80% figure includes blended offerings. So that means hybrid. So it's possible that you could be in a blended course or a hybrid course. The goal, hopefully, is that that 80% figure will be all in person, but we're still working towards that. But in essence, if you want to strategically plan an on-campus experience for you as an international student, which most do, and understandably so, we will do our best to make that happen. And you'll work with your advisor to work towards that. But just keep in mind that, we're not fully out of that, COVID realm by any stretch of the imagination, as I'm sure you all know. So, but we're working towards being more accommodating to a fully online or fully in-person, environment come fall. But there's still definitely going to be, some online options here and there as well. Other questions that the folks have?
Sir, I had a question. Okay.
No, go ahead, Niraj. I'll go after you.
Okay, fine, good. Sir, I had a question. Like, suppose like you are saying like co-op is there. So co-op you mentioned like it is 35 plus hours per week. So it will be approximate 8 hours per day, right? Like more than 7 to 8 hours per day. So what about our like if it's like for MSBA, it is like 4-3-4 total 10 subjects are there. And a system like 4 subjects in fall, 3 in spring, and then again 4 subjects. So if we suppose got to get a co-op during summer, and then what about the 2 subjects? Like, will we be able to balance the time or not? That's what my question was.
Okay, let me answer that one. The MSBA program is designed so that there are 2 classes remaining for the summer, and they are intended to be elective courses so that if a student does do a co-op during the summer, they can take those 2 remaining classes the following fall semester without a problem. So we've built that in and sort of structured the curriculum so that you can't decide you want to take fewer or more classes than is laid out in the program for you, because we want to make sure the students are aligned correctly. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, fine. And one more, suppose I wanted to ask one more question, if what's the batch size of MSBA? Like, I don't know approximate, like if there is depending on the batch size, the classes will most of the time conducted offline or online, like based on this. Like if the batch size of MSBA, suppose it is like maybe 40 or 60, I don't know what's the approximate batch size. So during COVID time, so what are the plans to conduct if you want to do most of the classes offline?
The plan right now is to have the classes on campus, but we are keeping in mind the reality of the situation. So we are currently also simultaneously running an online MSBA program. So we will, if the situation becomes problematic for students to get to the US, we will work an option for students to be able to start online from their home countries and then return to campus in the spring if things open up again. So we're trying to be pretty agile, adapting to the changing scenario.
And what about the visas? Like most of the embassies here in India, like you might know, the cases are pretty high. So most of the embassies are not conducting interview. Like, so are they planning to open the embassies here or not? Like, because I read an article like RIT has approached someone for opening the consulates in India and other countries. So will be there a visa interview? Like my visa is scheduled for 26th August. Like I got a pretty late interview date. So based on that, like maybe my 1 week of class might be this. I might miss 1 week of classes. So is there anything that is happening from the college side?
We are, as I say, trying to be nimble. We don't have definitive plans, but we're following the situation and we'll have plan A and plan B in place. We've gotten pretty agile in addressing the situation after this past year's experience. So we will be able to work with students to accommodate their situations, is the best I can say, because things keep changing. So if you've been admitted and you're hoping to start, we'll find a way to get you started.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
You're welcome. And Keltrine, you had a question?
Yeah, I did have some questions. I just wanted to quickly say, Niraj, I've heard that the embassies in India are actually accepting online interviews now. So you might want to check on that. I've heard a couple of my friends are doing that. I don't know how true it is, but just wanted to share that. Good morning. Thank you so much for the time today and all the useful information. I did have a couple of questions. So during CPT, just so I double confirm that, are we allowed to take classes or no?
So you don't have to, and maybe you could take one class if you want to, maybe two, but that might be pushing it. So because you're gonna be working full time, right?
Yeah.
And that's gonna be your priority. Now, if you, let's say that if you are a master's student and you say, okay, I only have those two classes to finish the degree, and I really want to be done by the end of the summer, and I want to do this co-op, like there is a way that you might be able to complete the classes online, but that's not typical. Like that, normal what happens is like if you do the co-op, you're pushing your graduation for the fall, and it's because it's really those two classes usually are like pretty like time-consuming classes that you're doing like that. Because I love, don't you have to, Peggy? Don't you have to do like your like capstone and stuff like that usually during the summer? And so like I feel like those classes are just hard to do if you're on co-op at the same time.
Yeah, makes sense. Thank you. And you mentioned that you have some events specifically like with Saunders, correct? In regards to career fairs and resume reviews.
Yes, so we do university-wide events, but we also do some things that are specifically at Saunders. So we will do resume reviews specifically for Saunders. We will have employers specifically come to look for business students and do things at Saunders. The only career fair that is like Saunders specific is the accounting career fair. And that is because accounting has its own very specific recruiting cycle. And so we have to like take them out of the traditional career fair cycle and just do a separate thing for them.
Okay, thank you. And the last question, we mentioned on-campus employment. Is there any place online where we can start checking positions for that?
So once you are officially an RIT student and you're like all like matriculated and everything, you will have access to all of our services. And so at that point, you will be able to go into Career Connect, which is our online jobs board. And that's also where you find co-ops and full-time jobs, but you'll be able to filter for on-campus employment and apply for positions that way.
And then the other thing to know is with the grad student worker positions we have in Saunders, and we're actually doing a session on those opportunities and really what that process looks like more so in 2 weeks. That's the next webinar session. But for those, we generally will work with students right at orientation where you can apply. And then within a week or so, or a couple weeks after, Peggy works with folks to pair students with faculty based on research support. So that's really what the main opportunities there are. And then we do have a couple other administrative ones, but the brunt of the offerings we have are, working with faculty on research support or administrative type of support. So those will, we'll cover some of that stuff here in the coming week.
And I see a question about the current situation of COVID in New York State. Actually, we're doing quite well in the state. I think the last data I saw for this part of the state anyway was around 3%. So, and RIT in the Rochester community, I think is doing really well. The RIT campus has been incredible. The campus right now is just at about 1% So I am very comfortable myself being on campus and am really proud of the compliance on the part of students. The campus is testing students weekly. I think the last number I saw was they had done over 100 and I know like 50,000 tests this semester alone on students. But students are incredibly compliant, even though they're not required to wear masks when walking outside around campus. They are. So I think it's probably one of the safer places and safer campuses in the US at this point.
Yeah, I actually get the emails from the governor every day. So I can tell you the 7-day average positivity rate in New York State is 2.8%. So we're doing pretty well. Also, I would imagine that once you're in the US as a student, you might become eligible for the vaccine as well. And like right now, everybody in New York State is able to get the vaccine for free. So hopefully that will still be the case by the time you get here, and you can just get appointments online and just, just go get it.
Yeah, we've been really fortunate in New York State with the rollout of the vaccine compared to some of the other states. So yeah, that's definitely an option for sure. Hopefully that'll come. Other questions that folks have? We have about 10 minutes left, but we certainly don't have to take all that time.
Julian, what's the difference between internship and this co-op? Like if we get a summer internship and we get a co-op, so is there some different thing between both of them?
So so here's the thing. There are this doesn't necessarily apply for business. Usually there's a certain like clinical related majors at RIT that have specific internships. The main difference between an internship and a co-op is that an internship is for credit, right? So you're paying RIT credit hours to do that internship, and it's because it's part of a program. When you're on co-op, it's a 0 credit experience, and that's why it's free. But when it comes from like the perspective from the employers and things like that, we don't care what they call it. Oftentimes the employers are going to call it an internship, but from our perspective, if it's something that's full-time, paid, and related to your field of study, then it counts as a co-op, regardless of what the employer calls it. So the employer can call it an internship. It can be a contract position. It could be like a program called Happy-Go-Lucky Summer People. As long as it is full-time, paid, and related to your field of study, it's a co-op from our perspective.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other last minute questions? Julian, I can't thank you enough for doing this. This was great. And definitely something that, will be really helpful for folks going forward, for those on the call and for those that'll view it later. So we really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. And I'll just kind of like close with saying that I hope that you guys decide to come to RIT. And if you do, please, please, please get to know me from the beginning. Come talk to me the minute you step foot on campus, set up an appointment, get familiar with me so that we can work on your strategy, regardless of whether you want co-op or not. So if you don't want a co-op, you just want to graduate, but you want to stay and work in the United States, let's work together to make that happen, because it's a lot easier to work in it if we have the length of your program to do it than if we try to do it in April right before you graduate. So just please come to my office early. And
Julian's a really good guy, so, and a really fun person to get to know. So I encourage you.
It says MBA has a 1-year work visa.
If you're looking at the OPT, being that the MBA now is a STEM designated program, you get the additional, what is it, additional 2 years?
Yeah, so you get to extend it to up to 3 years total.
So that's exciting news for hopefully everyone.
Yeah. And of course, once if you get that opportunity, that also allows you to then apply for an H-1B, which can be extended to up to 6 years.
All right. Well, thank you folks again for jumping on. A reminder that the next session I mentioned earlier will be on grad student worker positions. So Peggy and I will lead that one, and that's in 2 weeks. So I believe it's May 5th is the actual date. So again, feel free to join us for that one. And then the last one we'll do, I think, is 2 weeks out from that, May 19th. We'll be on just various clubs and activities that we have in Saunders that you can get involved in as well. But thanks again. Thank you again, Julian, and thanks for jumping on, folks. Have a good day.